This is Roll for Crit, and today we are diving into a game that's on Kickstarter now. It's called Theurgy. In this one, all players take on the roles of various deities with their own unique abilities, and you're attempting to win the faith, the loyalty, the belief of people all around the land. So you're going to be doing whatever you can to get them to follow you and worship you as their god of choice.
That's right, you're going to be competing with all the other players on the board, and it will get very hectic, as you can see here. You will set up the board with a bunch of different tiles. The capital is always in the center with different terrain types around said capital. Your turn will consist of doing one of, well, 3 actions. There are 4, but one of them will have a pawn on it, and you cannot choose that action should your pawn already be there. You will lift the pawn up and choose one of the actions you didn't select last turn. So in this case, this person could not choose Pilgrimage, but could do any of the rest. Pilgrimage involves moving your pieces on the board, whether they be the acolytes, these bigger meeple pieces, or the cubes. They're just called cubes right now, but they're pretty much people who believe in your faith. And you're going to move them around the board, 1 hex, and you can move as many as you want or as little. Now the cubes are more for area control. That's really what their purpose is. The acolytes, however, will have special abilities. Some of them will activate during the pilgrimage. When they move, they have 2 options. They can A, convert a cube there to your cause. Now, in this case, you can convert any of them, the gray being actually neutral players to the board. But if another acolyte is there, he actually protects his own cube. So the red player could not get this green cube and turn it red. They also have the option, if they move into a token with a monster that is not theirs, we'll actually get to the monsters a little later, but he can kill it. Once again, if this token belongs to the blue player, he can't kill it if the blue player is there to defend it. Either way, you'll move all your pieces, do an action with each acolyte you have. Everyone has 2. Now onto the spread the word action. This one is about placing your faith tokens on vertices. Now you can either put it on a empty vertex, like so. So you just take one of your tokens, put it there, very simple. Or if you're lucky enough, you can replace one of your opponents. Now, in order to do so, you have to look at all the tiles adjacent to that vertex, and you need to have more cubes there than your opponent. So in this case, blue only has 1, while red has 7. They can definitely replace that faith token. Now, what those faith tokens are used for, we'll get to a little bit later.
The next action on the list is Divine Intervention. This one allows you to perform miracles or perhaps summon monsters. It's your choice. So miracles are cards that you will have in your hand, and each one has a special ability. You can choose one of those and play it. You actually have to pick one of your acolytes specifically. They're going to be the ones who are technically performing that miracle, because the miracles often pertain to the specific hex that they're in or something to do with their environment, the cubes that are around it, etc. These can be really powerful abilities. They can allow you to take extra actions, more powerful versions of actions. If you use them well, they can be really strong. Once you have used one, you also get to discard more from your hand if you want, and you draw back up to 3, so you'll always have a hand of 3 of those to choose from. Your other option, as I said, is to summon a monster. There are always going to be 3 monster cards face up over there, each with their own unique token, and you choose which one of those you want. And let's say we pick this gargoyle right here. You would take it and you would spawn it somewhere on the map. So it's according to its symbol there, it tells you what type of terrain it has to spawn on. So this is a market space. Let's say you put your gargoyle there. Often those monsters will have abilities. Those will trigger right away once you place them. Also on future turns, if you have monsters, you could have more than one that are still active. It's called your horde when you have them in front of you. Then you may be able to move them according to their abilities. Some of them stay where they are. Some of them get to move a space. This gargoyle, for instance, doesn't get to move. He stays where he is. But you can also reactivate their abilities. So if you get enough monsters that stay on the field, nobody's attacking them, you could build up some more powerful abilities for the Divine Intervention action that way. At the end of your turn, a new monster will be drawn from the top of the deck, and the ones that weren't picked get those little clear discs on them. If one of them would get 3, it's instead discarded. Clearly nobody's interested in that one, and a new one will come out to replace it instead. There are also legendary monsters. You can see this dragon is one of them. They have really strong effects, and they take 2 meeples, 2 acolytes to take them out, to fight them on the same turn. So really strong and harder to kill. Now, no matter whether you do a miracle or a monster, what's going to happen in the space where you performed it is you can see there are these little tokens here. These are skeptic tokens, and anytime you perform something there, those skeptic tokens are removed from that space, all of them. These basically are going to make the next step harder, and they're going to come into play there. They represent people who aren't so sure about your gods. The final action, and probably the most important, is test the faith. This is the one that's really going to get you to your victory condition. The first thing that you'll do is find the anomaly token, which will be on one of the hexes on the board, and move it to a different hex. Has to be somewhere different. The place that you move it to then, you're going to take a number of steps. First, you're going to take a look at those aforementioned faith tokens compared to the other player's faith tokens, as well as skeptic tokens that may still be there. And then, depending on who has the most, they're going to get the chance to convert a certain number of cubes based on the difference between their tokens and the other player's tokens to their own color. So in this example, red here has 2 faith tokens, green doesn't have any surrounding this hex. So red is going to be able to convert 2 of those greens to red because 2 minus 0 is 2. And each player then in turn order, even if they don't have any cubes there, is going to get the chance to do that as long as they have some representation, for example, blue right here. And even the skeptics, which represent the gray cubes, they will also get the chance potentially to convert. So they could turn some cubes into gray cubes. Once this whole conversion process is complete, you take a look at that hex and see who has the most cubes there. Whoever that player is gets to build one of their temples in that spot. Now, if there was already a temple there, say, let's say this blue, let's say that blue one was there, either way, then this would actually become a ruins. It turns sideways, and then the new player comes in with theirs. There's also the possibility that there's a tie between the number of cubes. In that case, if there's a temple there, it'll get destroyed, but no one gets the chance to build. So you really have to be careful going into that test the faith action, because if you don't calculate things correctly, it might not necessarily go your way.
And speaking of, as I said earlier, the cubes would be in control, if, let's say, you left a temple unguarded, technically, it's a tie if someone goes there. So sometimes people may decide to do test of faith in areas they're not going to control just to destroy your own temples. We're being really mean to blue right now.
Yeah, that's really unfair to blue. The reason this is so important is because your victory condition is to build a certain number of temples. Depends on the number of players, and there's also a few different methods you can do. So you could build just a smaller number of temples, but one of them has to be in the capital, which is very hard to get to. You could build the middle number. Now that involves your secret goals. Everybody has a secret goal with some kind of condition. Might say that your temples have to be in a certain area, for example, maybe within this ring or on certain types of terrain. Or you can just try to build a whole bunch of temples, which might take longer, but maybe it's a little easier for you. So you have a few different options, but they all involve building those temples. That's what it is.
Each god does have their own power. For example, the blue one gets to move 2 spaces during the pilgrimage. Red gets to do a lot more converting during the pilgrimage. So you will have your own unique little twist that may be able to build off of and take advantage of.
Yeah.
I can't believe we completely forgot, but once you do build a temple, you're actually going to add more, not that much, but 1 doubt per each adjacent hex that doesn't contain either a monster or an acolyte. So that's another reason why this becomes hard. It tends to build up a whole bunch of skepticism.
Yeah, those skeptic tokens will really start to overrun the board, and you need to find ways to manage them. A lot of monsters will help you do things like that. So that's the other thing, I think, in addition to your personal powers that give you your own personal flair, building up some of those monster cards will definitely change the way that you play the game. There can be a light engine building aspect to it. If you have a few of those running, they could really change the dynamic. But they are pretty fragile too. That's one of the other things, is that, if one person uses their pilgrimage to go in there and take one of them out, they can just take it out. They're also sacrificing the opportunity to create more cubes though, so there's a lot of different things at play. And this is a game where there's no cleanup phase, there's no end of round or anything. You go back and forth, players choose one until somebody meets that victory condition. So it's pretty straightforward. And of course, again, some of these components are not final, and we still don't know exactly what these cubes are going to be. But I think that if you're interested in an area control game, this one does add some interesting new ideas to the mix. And I like the theme of of gods that are vying for power. Also, I like that they're not, it's not Zeus or whatever. They're all original gods with interesting original artwork. The monsters,
like Spirit Island, a bit more just
right original. The monsters seem to be based heavily on Greek mythology.
That reminds me actually a lot of Cyclades, how you can sort of just hire different monsters and put them on the board.
Yeah, definitely.
Though I do like the tokens because you can just match up their art here for example, and I don't feel bad about unpainted minis.
You also want to, make sure no one gets too far ahead. If someone's building temples and maybe you're not worried about them, they might build up a quiet lead. And like you said, maybe it's in your interest to go ahead and take that temple out, even if it doesn't directly help your cause. So the game, again, is called Theurgy. It's going to be on Kickstarter now. We're going to have a link in the description down below. If you liked what you saw here, then maybe you want to check out the page, get more details, more concrete information, check out the rulebook, gameplay videos, what have you, and decide if you want to back it or not.
Until then, worship the faith. I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this has been Roll for Crit.
Never miss out by liking and subscribing, and you can also check out more on our Patreon.
We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and Twitch, so follow us there.